What's going on, everybody? In this video, we're gonna be going over 11 things that I wish I knew when I began mixing my own music. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to get better mixes by implementing these 11 tips in your mixes today. Let's get right into it. Now, the first thing we're gonna touch on is focus on production. Yes, pretty much focus on the performance of the actual musical record. Can't turn to gold, excuse my French, but it holds true. What you start off with is largely gonna be what you end with. Now, a lot of times when people see some of my past music, they go, how does it sound so good already? Your raw vocals sound better than my mixed vocals. Because mastering the performance, mastering the timing, mastering the performance, mastering the vocal inflections, mastering that production value in the music is gonna be overall 90% better than trying to fix something that isn't even there to start with. I'd rather have the harmony stacks there than trying to create harmonies with the same vocals introducing phasing issues. The same goes along with timing. Of course, we can nudge things over, but nothing's gonna be as authentic and good feeling than a naturally sounding person that's on time, hitting every pocket in that mix. Of course, with the fundamentals and with the mixing techniques, we can bring things to a certain level, but if things aren't starting from a decent level, if things are clipping, if things are recorded way too silently and it brings in so much noise into the microphone, it's gonna be a lot harder cleaning out that noise. It's gonna be a lot harder getting rid of and fixing that distortion and clipping issues than it is gonna be when starting with a clean palette, something that sounds good going in, that gives us a fair chance at bringing it to the next level. So number one, focus on that production value. Number two, in the beginning stages, when I was getting into mixing, the number one thing when we're looking at tutorials all over the internet, when we're looking at our favorite rappers in these $1 million studios, you're gonna see the one thing that you're gonna think is the problem to all your solutions, which is the equipment. And I'm here to tell you, the equipment cannot save you.
He can't save you in the real world, just so you know.
What does that mean?
Now, I was a beginner mixer. I was mixing my own music and I was relatively happy with my mixes. Of course I wasn't, because I thought there was something out there that could be the magical button, the magical equipment that I'm just gonna set up and it's just gonna take my mixes from where it was at that time to Drake on the radio type quality, right? Wrong for me. What I went for was an upgrade in my preamp. Now, at the time I was running a Scarlett 2i2, so we can even beg to differ if that was even the correct upgrade to make at that time, but nonetheless, I went ahead and pulled the trigger on the Focusrite ISI preamp. I get the preamp, set it up, super excited, big box, I'm feeling like that guy. Started recording, and to my knowledge, I found that I wasn't happy with what was coming out through this vocal chain. And I say that to say this, didn't save me at all. There was other places that I needed to make up in order to get the full benefits of a preamp like that. So what I'm saying is, the equipment that you're looking at that you think is holding you back from a good mix, it's sadly not. So I'll say this, if you have the basics, an interface, a microphone, a computer, and you're able to record through a modern DAW with modern plugin, and you're not somewhat happy with the mixes and quality that you're getting out of your microphone, if you're not somewhat impressed with what you're doing, with what you have, equipment's not gonna save you. Now, number three, when it comes to mixing, even thinking about the technical word mixing, right? To intertwine, to mix, think about mixing in relations, right? And when I say this, what do I mean? While mixing, there's gonna be frequencies in different spaces in this stereo field, right? This invisible stereo that we're able to perceive from our left and right. So let's just say your vocals are fighting with a Rhodes or a keyboard or some sort, and you have a decision to make whether you want your pianos or your Rhodes to live in this frequency range, or do you want a little bit more of that body of your vocal to fit in that range. Maybe you might carve out some of that piano space and insert or boost a little bit of that vocal space, maybe around the 700, 600 range, and have some of your vocal prominence live amongst that space. It's kind of what I mean when I say mixing in relations too. Or if you just have a total section of a song that is stacked with every single instrument in the mix, and then a section where it's more stripped down and it only has a hi-hat, a snare, and a slight melody going, how does your vocal sound there? Right? So mixing in relation to making sure things have space in the mix to sit, space in the mix to live is very important. And it took me a long time to understand that, hey, maybe your chorus, your vocal mix on your chorus isn't going to be the same vocal mix in the verse. Or maybe the vocal mix in the breakdown is not going to be the same vocal mix in the verse, right? These things can be different, and it's okay to mix things slightly different in different spots to fit there better. Now, a quick example I can give you guys to really understand what I mean is, think about mixing like dating, right? Say it's like two partners. You're living in the house and each of you guys have duties, right? You don't want to be doing the same duties because that's counterproductive and you're probably going to be clashing, right? For instance, good example, if we're supposed to clean the house, are we both going to sit there and scrub the stovetop together, hitting elbows, cleaning the same stovetop? It's clashing frequencies. We don't want to be sleeping in the bed and both of us sleeping on the left side. Y'all going to be sleeping on top of each other? Clashing frequencies. So mixing is like dating, guys. Mixing in relations too, very important. Now, number 4, left versus right brain mixing. What do I mean by this? Your left side is more responsible for your logic of things, your methodology, the structural side of what you do, and the right side is more of your creative side. Now, what do I mean by this when it comes to mixing? Basically, what I'm saying is, when it comes to a point of mixing, you're gonna learn the do's and the don'ts. You're gonna learn the basics. You're gonna learn how to work an EQ. You're gonna learn how a compressor works. You're gonna learn what to do with a limiter. What is it used for most likely? What is multiband compression? All these things are your logical, your learned, your fundamentals, and that's all good and dandy. But I don't think that's what makes a great mix engineer, knowing how to just use these tools. But I don't think that's what makes a great mix engineer or artist engineer, whatever you'd like to call it. I think that you always want to make sure you're using your creative side as well. How does the mix feel? So for a long time when I was coming up learning audio engineering and things of this such, I was always obsessed with how to get the most crispiest vocal, the most cutting vocal. That was my everything. But what I learned was, as I listened to more mainstream music, as I listened to some of my favorite mix engineers, it wasn't always about getting a cutting vocal. What made these engineers special was the taste. And I think that when you get to a certain point, definitely becomes more important than the actual getting a super cutting vocal or the most punchiest kick that you can get in every single mix, because every single mix doesn't require that. So having a balance between your left brain and your right brain is very important when it comes to mixing. Now, piggybacking off the tail of that brings us to number 5, which is there is no right or no wrong in mixing. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, of course, we're gonna learn our basics. We're gonna learn what makes a good sounding record. We're gonna learn what makes a punchy kick, but mixing is all a game of decisions. It all comes down to context. If we're working on a rock record or a punk rap record, it might sound a lot different than a Kendrick Lamar hard-hitting West Coast banger, right? Because different things, different elements in these mixes are gonna be more prominent than others. If we're speaking about mixing a Memphis type of record, you might hear those hi-hats snapping and hitting way more prominently than you probably hear any other instrument in that entire mix. But that is what relates to making that sound its own sound in general, right? Different things are gonna matter in different scenarios. So there's no right, there's no wrong. All mixing is a bunch of decisions that you feel best about in this context of mixing. Now, with that also being said, there's no final decision until that final bounce down. So what you might do in the first 30 minutes, the decisions, the moves that you might make in the first 30 minutes of your mix might be the exact move that you take back or make a different move, right? An adjustment towards the later end because of other decisions you've made during the whole mixing process. So no final decisions till you bounce out that mix and it's final. That kind of brings us to number 6. Number 6, guys, is reference, reference, reference. Now listen, when I say there is no right or wrong, there is no right or wrong when it comes to mixing, but there is an accepted criteria. There is an accepted standard quality. And what is that accepted standard quality? The things that you're hearing on the radio, right? It goes to these top mix engineers because they have the accepted mix qualities. They have the accepted modern day mix formulas, right? So when we're hearing these records come out on the radio, and we're going into our DAWs and we have no reference as to what that is, You're going in blind. So it's very important to have a mixing reference. Put them in your DAW to understand the relation to the vocals as to how much are these vocals sitting above maybe the hi-hats, or how deep is the vocal sitting into this mix? How bright is that vocal compared to the bass? How bright is that vocal compared to this piano? And there are a lot of different referencing tools that we can use out there. For instance, there's the AB from Plugin Alliance. I love this tool because it has so many different tools inside of this one plugin that gives us that reference in how the mix balance is. It tells us the stereo field, the spectrum. It gives us so much when we're referencing our records. Do that. Now, another thing we can reference is, of course, we can look at people's actual sessions. We can reference our sessions to other pro engineer sessions. Listen, we live in the internet age. I'm showing my vocal chains. Do you understand the learning curve of if I could have just sat shoulder behind a mix engineer and saw exactly what their chains look like? This was secret pyramid, dipped off under the pyramid type of gatekeeping that was going on. But now, because we're in the age of information, these things are now available to us. So of course, if you get a session and you're able to look inside of a pro engineer's session, do it. Understand what makes these records come to life. Other ways, vocal presets, vocal templates, a great way to reference and get a feel for what these sessions look like that are able to get these professional sounding quality vocals. If you don't have your own templates, guys, wavemonopoly.com is a great place you can go and get templates and be able to see, okay, this is how you get to achieve this sound. This is what the vocal chain looks like. Reference in any way possible in order to get that inner look, in order to get that understanding of what's going on to get that professional quality is very important. And I wish I had this back when I was starting off. Now, number 7, train your ears. I don't think this is being done enough probably now, because there's so many other things out there that people can skip to or kind of jump ahead of. But when I was coming up, training your ears, I didn't take serious for a long time after I actually started mixing. But when I started, I was able to actually pinpoint frequencies without even looking at any spectrums of what I believe needed to come down. So there's a app out there named SoundGym that I've used in the past. It's a really dope tool to figure out these frequencies and be able to pinpoint them and just train your ears a little bit at a time every single day. Guys, will get you guys better in a very quick fashion to understanding and pinpointing these frequencies. All in all, guys, train your ears. Number 8, master the fundamentals. There's nothing that's gonna get you quicker to a amazing sounding mix than to understanding your level balancing, your EQ, your compression, your delays, and your reverbs, guys. Those simple tools right there are gonna get you guys to 90, 80% of that great sounding record that you're wishing to get. Understand the basics. If you don't understand the basics, you're not gonna be able to go and look at a dynamic EQ or a multi-band compressor. These things are gonna be very, very foreign to you if you're not understanding released, attack, these type of things. Okay, master those, understand how they sound, understand when you need them, when you don't need them, and guys, you're going to be getting those mixes that you wish you've been getting the whole time. I will stress some emphasis on the compressor, because that was one of the last things that I was able to really say, okay, I really get this now, right? If you don't know how to work that compressor, make sure you look at this tutorial right here. If I didn't link that tutorial, just go find it on my page. We did a masterclass on a compressor. It's very important, but that will change your mixes tenfold. Number 9, turn down your speakers. Turn it down. Turn it down. All right. It's not only going to help you get better mixes, but this is going to help you alleviate ear fatigue. This is going to allow you to critically listen a lot better than if you had it turned all the way up. We know that when you turn that volume up, you're tricking your brain into thinking that this actually sounds good, and it probably sounds like baby. Okay? Honestly though, seriously, turn the speakers down some. Of course, when you're mixing and you've reached that stage and you want to kind of check things, of course, turn your speakers up, right? But then turn them thing right back down, because we need to be able to hear what we're actually doing. Now, of course, you turn your speakers up, you're gonna get more of your sound field. You're gonna get more of those harsh frequencies, right? Because there is a certain volume that you need to listen to things at to understand if things are harsh or not, right? But for the most part, guys, turn the speakers down at a comfortable level to where you can actually listen to it over a long period of time and really get critical about the problems that you're trying to solve within your mix. So that brings us to number 10. Get them shots up, man. Get them reps up. If you're in this, you gotta do this, okay? There's no better way to get better at mixing than to actually do it, right? Nothing is gonna get you to that level that you wanna reach faster than getting it in. Get anything you can get your hands on. If your friends have a session, ask them if you can get their session so that you can mix it. The faster you get your reps up, the faster your skill level and your learning curve is just gonna increase incrementally, exponentially. Get those reps up. Nothing's gonna be more important than you actually doing the craft. And of course, the age-old car test, right? But listen, I'm not going to my car to get a car test every time I'm doing a mix. I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it, right? So we have something for you guys called the mock car test. Now, what is this? First, we have to understand why the car test is even essential and important in the first place. Now, when you go from mixing in your room, looking at the screen, you're looking at a bunch of the UI, you're looking at frequencies, it can kind of get counterproductive sometimes for your brain. When you're seeing all these visuals, sometimes you start to mix with your eyes and not your ears. So that's where the car test came in. Not only are you in another environment, right, where you're testing it on different speakers, but one of the main things is you don't see anything in front of you and you're forced to listen with your ears. So how can we do that mock test in your studio? Well, it's very simple as to turn off your monitor. Turn off the monitor, sit there and listen to your mix critically. Listen to what the changes are that you need to make to your mix. Solve the problems. Don't just make a move because you've seen somebody else make the move. But that's a way that we can actually trick our minds to actually listening with our ears instead of listening and making moves and mixing with our eyes. Now, those are 11 tips that if implemented today will bring your mixes to another level. Now, when getting into these mixes, we just want to always leave this ending note, guys. Do not overanalyze your mixes. Okay? Sometimes it might be even better to mix faster and make your decisions and finalize it for the moment, sleep on it and come back to it. Don't overanalyze, solve the problems that you're hearing and your mixes will come together. All right? And at the end of the day, guys, just do it. Like Nike say, right? Just do it. Get in the gym, get it in, and get those mixes cranked out, man. You already know who it is, man. It's your boy, TheWavMan, and we out until the next video. You already know what time it is, man. Dunzos!